Hey, listen, one more thing really fast. I wanted to share with you just a real quick a little eagle talk today. This is a little bit of leadership talk that I wanted to bring to you, and it was from the John Maxwell Promises Every Day. I really enjoyed the one from today. It talks about the price of commitment, and it says Second Chronicles 31, verse number 20. I'm going to read another one too because this is really, really just neat stuff. In this way, King Hezekiah handled the distribution throughout all Judah, doing what was pleasing and good in the sight of the Lord his God. In all that he did in the service of the temple of God and in his efforts to follow God's laws and commandments, Hezekiah sought his God wholeheartedly, and as a result, he was very successful. He was showing in this text, he was showing what it was that made Hezekiah so successful was that he followed God wholeheartedly. But then there was this other scripture. I thought it was so good, and this is in Second Chronicles 30. Hey, babe, you're ringing. Second Chronicles 30, verse 12. Just a second. It says, "At the same time, God's hand was on the people in the land of Judah, giving them all one heart to obey the orders of the king and his officials who were following the word of the Lord." Gave them one heart, gave them unity. The Lord's hand of favor was on them, and they all came together with the same goals, the same ideas, the same principles. Like it was amazing how um, God's hand touched them in such a unique way. Now, I want to read you a few things. The Bible describes King Hezekiah as a leader who did what was good and right and true before the Lord his God. And in every work that he began, he did it all with his heart. Hezekiah paid the price to get the job done, but here was the price of his commitment. Let me read these to you. Number one was a change of lifestyle. Hezekiah could not live the way that his father lived. We find that the very first thing that Hezekiah decided that he was going to do, he was going to restore the temple. He reordered the temple, brought the temple back. They removed everything that was defiled, everything that was touched by human hands. See, a lot of times we got to do the same thing. We get a lot of principles in our life, and these. I'm so sorry. I was making a mess over here. A lot of times we have traditions and we have things that we don't necessarily we don't mean to do it. I believe we get selfish sometimes. I think we get lazy sometimes. I think we get lackadaisical. I think we just get into a routine sometimes, and we get into a kind of a cycle that doesn't bring honor to God. This is what happened to the children of Israel, and it's a tale as old as time. They had to cleanse the temple. And before they entered into the temple, every single time the Bible, you go back and you read it, it says that every single time that they came together, that these men would cleanse and purify themselves, and then they began to cleanse the temple. You can't help the temple get in order if you yourself have not been cleansed. It says that these men called together their fellow Levites. This is 29 and 15. These men called together their fellow Levites, and they all purified themselves. Then they began to cleanse the temple of the Lord, just as the king had commanded. So before they could be of any use to the temple, they had to purify themselves. They had to make sure their heart, their motives, their mind was right. And as they began to do that, God began to bless them. We find later on, the next chapter, 2 chapters over, that God's hand was on them. And his hand was on them. The sign of his hand on them was unity, that they all had the same goal, the same mind, the same joy, and they fulfilled these things, all of them together. So it was a change of lifestyle. Hezekiah could not live the way that his father lived. He had to change the way that things were coming in and out of the temple. God's favor was not on them. They were struggling. They had to change their lifestyle. So this is applying to us in this way, is that if you just feel like everything that you touch is a mess and things are just not moving right and you can't enjoy you've lost the joy of your life, and you just got to restart. The best way to do that is to lead yourself well before you lead somebody else. And the greatest way to do that, change your lifestyle. You've got to realize I'm doing things in a rush. I'm doing things selfishly. I'm doing things with disregard. I'm just not caring. I'm just kind of numb. I'm just kind of going through the motions, so to speak. I mean, I think we've all kind of been in a situation like that. Well, you know what? A change of lifestyle might be in order. That's what happened to Hezekiah. He had to change his lifestyle, and then in turn was able to make an impact on others. Let me go to the next one. Loneliness. So he changed his lifestyle, but he had to deal with something else. And you know what that was? Loneliness. Sometimes whenever you change your lifestyle, you're going to go through a bout of loneliness. You're not going to have a whole bunch of people who are going to be around right off the bat. Hezekiah stepped out in obedience, and at first he was alone. That doesn't mean that he was alone forever, but he was alone at first. When you make that decision to step out, it might be lonely at first, but it's the price of commitment. The price of commitment is a change of lifestyle. Number 2, he was lonely at first. Number 3, faith in God. Hezekiah believed that God was going to bless his efforts. He believed that what he was doing was going to work. To me, I've for years, I've counseled people, through their changes, and I've counseled people through the adjustments of their life. And the thing that really, I think, blesses and benefits people in that pursuit. Now, if you're maybe making some changes in your life and you've hopped on here and you're watching this here today and you're making some changes in your life, the only thing that I can tell you is this: believe that it's going to work. And I don't know who this is for. I don't know where it hits. But the greatest thing that you could do is believe that it's going to work. That's what Hezekiah had to do. He made a change in his lifestyle. He was alone at first, but he was able to endure loneliness. Why? Because he believed that what he was doing was going to work. And guess what, friends? It did. It did work. It was a huge blessing. He endured criticism. Hezekiah weathered the harsh questions of the older generation. It wasn't being done the way that they'd seen it done or the way that they preferred it to be done. He had to get through that because he knew that his whole heart was to please God. And you might not be understood at first, but when your motive is to please the Lord and you believe that it will work, you can get through the blockade of criticism and you can overcome the blockade of loneliness temporary loneliness. It's not forever loneliness. It's temporary. And you can get through the hindrance and the blockades of things that resist you as you change your lifestyle. Hard work and money. Here's another thing. The king gave up time. He gave up energy. And he gave up budget to reach his goal. It cost him something. But you know why he was able to do that? Because he believed it was going to work. Why did he believe it was going to work? Because he had faith in God. Criticism didn't stop him. Why? Because he had faith in God. Loneliness didn't stop him. Why? Because he believed what he was doing was going to work. The change of lifestyle, all of those things, it didn't stop him. Why? Because he believed it was going to work. I believe it with my whole heart that what I'm doing, I believe this change. I believe it's going to work. I believe it's going to turn things around. I believe that this is going to happen. And then someone criticizes you or you have a setback or whatever. And then here they come and they're saying, yeah, look, some God, huh? I was in the same boat. I had the same enthusiasm and people let me down. You'll come to your senses soon enough. And you hear the criticism of people that are trying to tear you down and tear down because you're going through some difficult times as a result of your change. And they're trying to give you the I told you so speech. You need to stop it. And you know what can get you through those things? Believing what you're doing is going to work. You have to have faith in God. I'm talking to somebody today that you've got to remain faithful and have faith in God that what you're doing in your life and the price of commitment is worth it. And that your faith in God is going to help get you through daily discipline. Hezekiah had to instill a daily regimen to bring about reform. You've got to do it every single day. You've got to do it every single day. It's not just it's a one and done thing. I've been doing this study. I did it earlier. I went live, and many of you who've been with me, you know that I'm popping on here again, kind of right back to back. But for 40 consistent days, I'll never forget whenever I was sitting at my kitchen table, and it hit me out of the blue, and I said, I'm going to do this for 40 days. I said, for 40 days, I'm going to do this. There have been things in the past that I committed to, and people's interest fell off, and because their interest wasn't there and there wasn't engagement or whatever, I lost energy in it, and I'll be honest, and I just decided to switch up. And I've done that before. This was different for me. I started, right off the bat, I had several that stayed with me, and I've had those who have remained faithful with me, and their life is changing. It's amazing. This pursuit that we're on, and this journey we're on through these 40 days. Today was day, I think, 37. We got a couple more days left. I've got a very small few that are with me. But just because there is that small few that are with me, I knew that it was important for me to remain committed. I knew that lack of approval, or lack of support, or lack of whatever it might be, I had to have that daily commitment, that daily discipline. I've heard it all. Oh, we got busy. Oh, we're going to catch up. I've heard it all, and I've been there. I've had my own excuses. But at the end of the day, I am committed to revival for the church that I pastor. I'm committed to it. I'm committed to removing hindrances out of the folks that I work with, my own life. I'm committed to seeing this thing through. Now, others are not, but that doesn't stop me from doing it. Hezekiah was in the same boat. He didn't have the support of people right off the bat, but he stayed consistent, and God gave favor because he wholeheartedly pursued him. And as he pursued him wholeheartedly, the Bible says that God gave them one mind. God gave them unity. Hello, Sister Leslie. God gave them unity. God gave them a togetherness. Brother Brent, God gave them that connection that was so powerful, because he decided to do it every single day and not stop. And I relate to this because this has been something that has really been challenging. I've been fighting throat issues and stuff for 2 weeks. Every little thing that could possibly try to come at me and fight me has done that. It's tried to fight me. It's tried to slow me down. It's tried to get me to not go live, and to not preach, and to not teach, and to not put these things out. It's tried to do everything that it possibly can, but I am committed to seeing this thing happen. And I know that God is a rewarder and will reward those who will do that and remain. The price of commitment. It's necessary. And finally, constant pressure. The king endured the pressure of potential failure and misunderstanding. But that was the price of commitment. Friends, when you commit to something, when you make, I'm going the wrong way. When you make a commitment to God, you are going to face every hurdle that you can imagine. You're going to see so many things. You're going to face so many different battles. You're going to go through so much stuff. But I promise you this, the constant pressure and the daily discipline and the hard work and facing criticism and having faith in God, all of the loneliness, the lifestyle change, all of that stuff that you face in this life, the way that you accomplish the true revival and spiritual awakening and the things that you're facing and praying for God for, the way that you make it through all of that stuff is one thing: believe it's going to work. You've got to believe it's going to work. I believe that this thing is going to break loose. So I have publicly documented for the last 37 days a process that I'm personally going through, a hindrance that I'm removing day by day by day. I've done every single one of these things. I've reflected on it deep. I've changed my habits. I've changed everything. Why? Because when it comes to seeing true rejuvenation and spiritual awakening in my region, I take that very, very seriously. And I'm not just talking about it. I'm not just preaching about it. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I am watching lives be radically transformed. And I have learned to celebrate it on a small scale because I know that God's hand is on it. And that this massive awakening, this incredible surge, you're going to be able to say, I remember when he said it, and he called it, and he spoke it. I remember. And now it's happening. I know it's possible. I know with God this is possible. I've watched it happen in someone. I've seen it happen in Aaron Boyd. I've seen it happen in my brothers and my sisters. I've seen it happen in my own life. It's possible. It can happen. Thank you for joining me for a little bit of this Eagle Talk tonight. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more of this coming up, but thank you all for joining me. Love you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful night, and I hope that God blesses you richly. And remember, the price of commitment. The price of commitment, number one, that you hold on to it, hold on to this, believing that what you're doing is going to work. And if you're doing it wholeheartedly as unto the Lord, I promise you, it will. Believe me, I know it. I'm trusting it. I've got things I'm believing for now, and I'll try to be as transparent as I can to show you the day that it truly busts open and takes happen. Maybe you'll hear about it because things are breaking loose. Things are going to bust open, and you're going to hear about it. And it was not by chance. It was believed for. It was believed for. It was prepared for. It was prayed into. It was fasted into. There was a consistent change that happened. It didn't happen overnight. It was something that was truly, seriously seized by prayer and fasting, commitment and not giving up. And God has done incredible things. Love you all.